No! I have to confront my fears. My fears are that you guys will not understand me in this point of view, which I do believe is true. And all that I can ask of you is to also believe whatever it is you deem as true. That's all I want for people in this world, to defend what they believe in. And today that's talking about a little hole in a smartphone that's been in a lot of our computers for a long time. But more recently, we've been seeing it exit more and more technology. New products like the Apple Watch don't even need a headphone jack. Now the iPhone 7 doesn't need one. Rumors are the Google Pixel 2 doesn't need one. But in my last video, I reviewed the 12-inch MacBook, which I really enjoyed, but I said I would rather have 2 USB-C ports, or if anything, a removed headphone jack, and boy, did you guys not like that comment. And I figured that since it's been such a long time, coming up on the year, since Apple removed the headphone jack from their smartphones, there's a bit of clearing up I need to do, because typically now, I just kind of gloss over that fact that I don't think we should have a headphone jack in anything, because I talked so much about it before the iPhone 7 came out. It was in all the leaks that it wasn't gonna have it. So months before the iPhone 7 came out, I did a big video on it, and my channel just kind of got its big launch from that video. Lots of people were upset that I thought the removal of the headphone jack was a good thing, and I had to defend myself, and apparently I convinced a lot of you I had some good points, and you subscribed, and hopefully you're still watching. But let me reiterate some things for you. So there's people out there who are now, of course, okay with the removal of the headphone jack on the iPhone 7. They're going, okay, look, there was no room for it in the smartphone. It's time for us to move on. Got it. But with products that can have room for it, like the iPad and the MacBook, Apple keeps it there because it's not intruding much space. People already have audio jack headphones. What's the problem? Drew, why do you think we need to remove the headphone jack on products that still have it? For instance, audio professionals, people who work with audio for a living, hate using wireless headphones because of the Bluetooth lag you have between your computer and your headphones. There isn't quite that instant response that you get with an audio jack. So how can you be so upset that they include these things? First of all, let me just say, I see your point. I understand that having a headphone jack is functional, and I never want to make the argument that it was useless. First of all, Apple never removes any port because it's not being used. In fact, quite the opposite. Apple typically removes a port when lots of people are using it. However, when Apple finds a better way, they typically want to push people to move that way. The Apple Sheep Army, Apple's core audience, is so loyal to that brand that Apple almost has a responsibility to push people on to newer and better things because they know their fans are so loyal to them, they are going to be okay with this big change. Whether it be removing the floppy disk drive, removing the FireWire port, removing the CD optical drive, removing the USB port, and removing the headphone jack, yes, we stick with Apple because of our loyalty to them and our trust in them. Some of it may be subconscious. So I believe Apple still has this responsibility to try to convince not just users, but also all of the third-party developers and all of the rest of the market that, hey, there is a better way to transfer audio between your computers and your headphones. And yes, a lot of it is wireless, for instance, AirPods, and plenty of other great wireless alternatives out there. But I understand audio professionals, wireless headphones are not ready for you yet. They're not as instant. You need that audio to be clear, you need it to be sound, and you can't have any lag. In that video, I was not explaining that I think the MacBook should only be used with wireless audio headphones. If you are a studio producer, I think it's important to acknowledge that USB-C, this new, hopefully last port we use on everything before we make the complete switch to wireless, is capable of transferring far more data and far more power than the traditional headphone jack. As Apple stated, we've been using that thing for nearly 100 years, and the headphones you're using that use an audio jack can only provide so much power. They can only provide so much data transfer in a traditional headphone jack, like you see on the 12-inch MacBook or like you see on the iPads. And the detailed complexity of your headphones is determined by how much power they use and how much data can be transferred to them. So keep in mind, super high-end audio professionals, they don't even use the headphone jack, they use the 1/4-inch jack. This allows you to transfer far more data through it and a lot more power, which allows heavy-duty studio headphones to sound a lot more intricate, and audiophiles can notice every little minute detail in whatever sound they're listening to. In yesterday's video, I was not recommending that all audio professionals should make the switch to wireless. I'm saying you could even have an upgrade if you used USB-C. An audio jack, a traditional one, is capable of transferring a pretty decent stream of kilobits along with power for the headphones. USB-C has not truly been unlocked yet in the audio industry. It definitely could be. The USB-C port is capable of transferring more data than the quarter-inch jacks that high-end professional audio users use. Because USB-C, you can output 5K resolution and sound, and also extreme amounts of power, as in like my 15-inch MacBook Pro charges from an 87-watt brick that charges that giant MacBook incredibly fast. So what I'm saying is, if Apple started removing the headphone jack across all of their devices, including the iPad and MacBook and even the iMac, it would make third parties have to start investigating making their products better, making them decide, okay, people aren't satisfied with the headphone jack anymore. They're either going to use wireless. If you're a casual user, you just listen to music, you don't need it to be all fancy. Switch to Bluetooth. Or if you're a studio engineer who edits audio for a living, you can make that upgrade to USB-C headphones, which again are capable of delivering far more power, so features like FLAC files can be played through your headphones. Noise reduction can also be supported because it has so much more power. It can have more complexities to the headphones on the inside. And again, I'm not the one in charge of Apple. I know a lot of you ask questions like I am, but if I were CEO, I would say that any product you remove the headphone jack from must include an adapter. So no, I'm not necessarily saying that all of your old headphones, for all of you desktop professionals, for all of you studio executives, you could no longer use those. I'm saying it would include a USB-C to headphone jack adapter so that you would have no data lost, and hopefully in the future, third-party industries, the companies that are designing your headphones now, would be encouraged and in fact required to make headphones that sound better, that are capable of delivering definitely more data than the headphone jack, and if anything, just the same amount. Until, of course, wireless headphones are as good without the lag and sound just as nice as your regular studio headphones, then of course you could make that switch. I absolutely love asking people about the headphone jack debate because there's very few people out there who agree it should stay here forever. Typically, if I ask someone, do you think we should have a headphone jack in our phones in 10 years? A lot of them will go, yeah, I want my headphones to last another 10 years. Then I go, how about 30 years? When you're a full-grown adult with children, cars are driving themselves all over the place. We're hearing about the Mars landings that SpaceX is doing. Do you still want a headphone jack in your computers? And they go, yeah, I think so. In the year 2047, you still want to have wired headphones? I would like the option to. Then I go 60. What do you think technology will be like in the year 2077? Do you still want the headphone jack then? And most of the time they'll say, well, no, by then audio data transfer will be so good, there will be no need to have a cord between your phone or whatever it is you're plugging into to your ears. They typically think, no, we'll have it built into our brains. The music will just be there in our ears our whole lives. That's when I always stop them and say, okay, so you agree that the headphone jack is not gonna stay here forever, you just don't want to accept that you might ever have to do something different. If we keep the headphone jack on the MacBook, if we keep it on the iMac, if we keep it on the iPad, the rest of the third-party industry, including consumers, has no urge, no need to try to switch up to wireless or to switch to USB-C headphones. There's no push for that. The only reason we stopped using floppy disk drives is because Apple said we found a better way to do it, using this little thing called USB. And of course, a lot of people back then said, hey, I have thousands of floppy disk drives. Why can't you give me the option to still use my floppy disk? They said, no, you're gonna switch to this because this is better. You'll thank us in the future. Everyone was pissed. Everyone was super mad. They're like, all these floppy disk drives, none of these work anymore. In a similar way, I see the world complaining about all of these headphone jacks. None of them work anymore because you ditched it, Apple. When in reality, Apple is the one who is causing us to switch, making the industry strive to be better, because I do think we can do better than having giant strangly wires tied to our computers, which are getting more and more mobile, that stick in our ears and we can feel them wiggling around the whole time. I want a future where the audio is better than it is now or more convenient. It's got to be one or the other. I know that within the next 10 years, Bluetooth technology is going to be better, and I know already that USB-C can transfer more data, more power, but again, there's none of those kinds of headphones being made because these studio developers can still keep making their headphone jacks. They know they still work because Apple's not ditching them. That's why I think it's important for Apple to remove the headphone headphone jack on everything, stay consistent with the iPhone, and yeah, include an adapter. I know you kind of hate dongles, but just understand, I'm trying to help you. I'm seeing the future be brighter. At some point in this next century, you're gonna have to start doing things differently. That's just the way technology works, but it works in our favor. There's a little bit of annoyance along the way, but in the end, you're going to be so happy because I'm sure in the next 30 years, we're all gonna be using wireless headphones anyway, but we'll still be able to look back and see ourselves complaining, why doesn't it have a headphone jack? But in the future, you're gonna be like, oh man, we had no idea. Think a little bit more outside the box. That's what I'm trying to explain. I hope you can understand that, and if you don't, of course, let me know in the comments below. But if you are with me, if you're a true Apple sheep who wants to see the headphone jack burn at the stake, we now luckily have some new t-shirt designs in the Apple Sheep merch page. Check in the links below. I've designed some of them myself. Some of them were designed by a fan submitted to me. Thank you very much. One of them is AirPod music notes. I designed my first Tesla merchandise, and there's now even one for the Apple Pencil called Who Wants a Stylus? It's kind of ironic of Steve Jobs, but hey, hope you guys like those new t-shirts, and there's a very special deal going on right now. If you use this promo code, you will get free shipping on all of the items you order from my Spreadshirt page. Hope you guys enjoy them. Feel free to check them out. And again, thank you all for watching. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.